going on, guys? Wei here with Tom Chng, who is the founder of Singapore Watch Club. Brother, how are you?
Very well, Wei. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Nice to be here.
So I guess you can tell from the decorations and probably from what you see on the tray here that we're here at Cartier, and it's a pretty momentous occasion because the amount of horological finery we have on this tray is honestly astonishing. But before we get to that, I want to ask you a little bit about this amazing organization, Singapore Watch Club. How did it come about, brother?
So we came from very humble beginnings, I'd say. We started in October 2015.
Right.
So just a few guys, 8 of us, we met on Instagram, just came together to grab a beer and talk watches. And we never expected the club to grow in the way that it had, and having the opportunity to work with so many different brands and to explore passion in such a deep and meaningful manner. So it's been a very wonderful journey so far.
And thanks to Instagram and to the club's Instagram and to your Instagram, I managed to follow your pathway as a collector. And I've noticed that, well, first of all, you have amazing taste. Second of all, I noticed that you like a couple of different things. You like independent watchmaking, as do I.
I do.
But you and I have also followed a very interesting journey as watch collectors as well, right? Like, I think that we all kind of got interested in sports watches initially, and then we got into independence, we got into complications as well. We got into sort of contemporary horology and then also into vintage at some point.
Yeah.
But at some moment, interestingly, we had this conversation, we both kind of landed at Cartier.
Yeah.
And when we landed at Cartier, it was like, oh, wow. This is incredible, right? Because I think at some point as a collector, and I'm not to say that you still don't love all of those things simultaneously, but you're like, I just want something that is the ultimate expression of like elegance and beauty. Yeah. And for that, it has to be Cartier. It's got that singularity, as Cyril Venero likes to say. Would you agree?
I do think so. And yes, I do love a wide variety of watches, and that's the beauty of watches, right? There's so many facets to appreciate and to enjoy. Like we both like the audacity of independent watchmaking, that pursuit of very high tech perfection in a very modern way, but also on the other end of the spectrum you have Cartier, whereby with Cartier you don't talk about complications, you don't talk about finishing. Heck, I didn't even discuss movements with Cartier in this project. The whole point was surrounding around the brand's simplicity in design, purity in terms of timelessness and creative expression of how a wristwatch should look like on the wrist.
Absolutely. I think the thing that's astonishing to me about Cartier is the durability of these designs, right? I'm looking at this tray, and so we're going to see, an incredible project that Tom has initiated where he's got 6 of the most iconic references in watchmaking, and 6 Cartiers, of course, shaped watches, and executed in 3 different metals. So 18 pièce unique watches, each available to members of his club. Yep. I would imagine that it will be very hotly contested. But what it dawned on me as I was looking at these watches is the majority of these are over 100 years old.
Yes,
right?
They are. Yeah.
In fact, I think the most modern watch is this one from the 30s, right? And then you've got it going all the way back to 1904, right?
Yep.
So I think that's astonishing. And this, this beauty just celebrated its anniversary last year. That's 100 years old or 101 years old. So what is it to you about Cartier, about the perfection of the designs, where they just got it right, and they actually haven't even really had to change them for over a century?
Yeah, but that's also the very tricky part of the campaign, because how do you improve, or how dare you personalize a watch that's already been perfected 100 years ago?
Right.
So that was very difficult for us, and which is why we decided to pursue the angle from a different way. Like we wanted a watch that from a meter away, you wouldn't be able to tell that it's a limited edition.
Right.
To keep the purity of Cartier, to keep the balance, because we explored a lot of different ways of adding our flavor, and it just threw the watch out of balance. So we wanted to keep it super pure, and so we had to play around with the little details.
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess the only even to a seasoned Cartier collector, the only discerning factor that you would identify from a meter away would be the fact that it has a brush style.
Ah, yes, of course.
Yeah, that's the first
Absolutely.
element to notice.
Yes. I think that's what's so cool about these designs, though, is the subtlety and the sort of nuance. And I have to say, they're masterful, Tom. So I take it you're the guy that designed them with Cartier?
No, well, it's a team effort. So together with the members, we refined. Everyone had the little contributions, even down to that subtle flipping of the 6. So that was a big stumbling block for us. We really wanted to honor. So what we're talking about is, for the Roman numeral 6, we wanted to do something special to it to give it more importance because to mark the 6th anniversary of the club.
Right.
So we explored a variety of different ways of doing it in a different color, in a different language, in a different border. At some point, we even explored, every member handwriting their own number 6, a little bit like the 5212.
Yes.
Right. So everyone did their own little Roman numeral 6, and then someone was like, "Oh, I don't like the way how it looks." So we had to go back to the drawing board time and time again, and then a member was joking about inverted 6 on the Daytona.
Right.
They were like, "Hey, that could actually work."
Ah.
So we ended up flipping the 6,
Yes.
and it kept the harmony of the dial. And the favorite part of that detail is that most of the people that we've shown the watch to, even after handling the watch for 5 minutes, they couldn't tell.
Until you tell them, then you can't unsee. It's only there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, I mean, what I love about Singapore Watch Club is also they're like nerded out to the maximum. What Tom was referring to earlier was the 16520. That's a seal 1650. Those were the Zenith-based Daytonas, and the initial versions of it, starting with the R series, had an inverted 6 and then a subdial at 6 o'clock. But let's talk about these Cartier watches. So we have, from left to right, tell me if I'm correct, the beautiful Ton Cintré, right? We have the tonneau.
Yep.
We have the magnificent cloche.
Yep.
And it's very interesting because bear in mind that Tom started this project 2 years ago, before he knew that the cloche was going to make a return, correct?
Correct.
Then, of course, you've got the Santos Dumont, the very first wristwatch ever created for a man, a gentleman aviator, in this particular case, named Alberto Santos Dumont. You've got the Tank Louis Cartier, which is, to me, still such a masterpiece of design when you look at those Blancards. It's incredible. And then you have the legendary Asymmetrique as well, which actually Tom is wearing a version of that. Now, for the 6th anniversary of Singapore Watch Club, what Tom has done is he's created a unique dial for all of these watches, which is a brushed silver dial. Then on top of that, you have a minute track that's rendered in blue, and hidden within the minute track is a really cool detail. Tell us about that.
So we wanted to give a bit of a flavor to the watch, but in a very subtle way. So Cartier has a tradition of placing the brand signature hidden within the Roman numeral 7. So that inspired us to do the same. So we wanted to hide our SWC signature somewhere on the watch, but we still wanted to maintain some kind of functionality to it. So we replaced the 29th, 30th, and 31st minute marker with SWC.
Wow.
So you can still read the time using those letters.
That's incredible. I love that. It's giving me so many ideas right now as well. And then, of course, you have the signature Roman numerals, but here with the 6th turned upright in homage to the 6th anniversary of Singapore Watch Club. So we're going to hold these watches up to you to take a look at them, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about each of these icons and what they mean to you as a collector. Also, I should mention that you've got 6 different iconic models, but you've got all 6 of these watches will be permutated in 3 different metals. They will be yellow gold, it will be rose gold, and it will be platinum. And each of those metals is also nicknamed after one of the values of the Singapore Watch Club. Tom, tell us about that.
That's correct. So the Singapore Watch Club, we have 3 core values, and those are passion, sincerity, and humility. So we kind of saw a parallel between those core values and the materials that we had at our disposal. So passion being a red metal, so pink gold being a red metal, then having a heart of gold. So that represents sincerity, and humility is represented by the white metal platinum.
Amazing.
And each of them will have a different cabochon. So the one in pink gold will have a black opaque spinel cabochon, and yellow gold has the traditional sapphire, the classic Cartier combination, and of course for platinum, the very prestigious ruby cabochon.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that platinum is humility because, it could be a white metal.
Exactly,
it could be white gold. Cartier doesn't make these watches in steel. Well, you can make a Santos Dumont in steel, for example, right? So, but I love the fact that it's a master of subtlety. Now, tell me also, I'm a bit of a geek for straps as well. Tell me about the decision for the color for each of these straps, because I see you've got pink gold with a black strap. You've got yellow gold with a very beautiful brown strap. And then I love this color, which I'm struggling. It's like a gray beige for the platinum. Tell me a bit about that.
So because of the timelessness of the collection, each combination kind of represents a different period in recent watchmaking. So the most contemporary of them all is definitely the platinum ones with the gray beige strap. So that's meant to be very modern looking, but still with the brushed silver dial, it's got a very vintage twist. And the brown on yellow gold combination, that's a very, I'd say, a 90s combination.
Yes.
That's very 90s. And pink, gold, and black, we were inspired by the period right after 2000.
Yeah. I remember in the early 2000s, it was pink, gold, and black everywhere,
Yes.
right? Okay, so let's walk us through the watches a little bit. Maybe we can start with the asymmetric and tell us a little bit about, for you, why the asymmetric is so important.
So this, I think it's one of the more artistic shapes of Cartier, but yet still quite wearable. It's got a whimsical play on the classic Cartier tank.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And we chose this combination because we were inspired by the tank asymmetric from the CPCP period. So we decided to go with Romans in disproportions rather than the current ones with the Arabic alternating with batons.
Correct.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's an absolutely stunning watch.
It is. I like this one a lot.
And you're wearing the rose gold version on your wrist, but that watch is actually going to a very important club member. Tell us a little bit about who that watch is going to, sir.
So this is going to my fiance.
Yes.
Yeah, she picked this combination. She's always been a fan of the asymmetric, but she liked them with Roman numerals a little bit more. So this one, yeah, she's gonna wear this one a lot, I'm sure.
That's absolutely killer, dude. Absolutely beautiful. So let's go from there to one of the most iconic watches in the world, the tank Louis Cartier.
So this, I think, did really well because this shape was priced the lowest in the set, but I think it brings so much to the table. Looking at the end product, the size is classic. The profile of the watch with that little dome crystal, I think it turned out really well. Oh, and we have to say all of them come with Breguet hands. So blue flame steel Breguet hands.
Why so, sir?
We just think that's the most classic Cartier combination.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I agree. And then let's go from there to the Santos Dumont.
So this one, of course, is like Wei said, the first this wristwatch that was designed for men in 1904 for Alberto Santos Dumont. This, again, we reverted back to the dial proportions that was not from the current collection. I think the current collection has more slender, has more elongated Roman numerals.
It's more like the one from the 90s.
Exactly,
Yes.
yeah. So we reverted back to that. And the result is a much cleaner and much more vintage-inspired profile.
Fantastic. And let's go to this very beautiful cloche.
So this, probably the most artistic shape in the entire set. Not a piece to wear every day, but I just love this because it's got that added effect where when you take it off and you put it on the table and it looks just right at place, right? And another thing we should mention is that all of the dials are brushed from 12 to 6. Mm-hmm. So the cloche, unlike the rest are vertically brushed.
Oh, that's so funny.
The cloche is brushed this
horizontally,
way.
yeah.
So to imply that
Yes.
the natural position of the
To
cloche
read it is when it's on your desk.
is on
Yes.
your desk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then, and forgive me for asking, but if I'm not mistaken, that platinum cloche is going to a very, very special owner.
That one's for me, yes.
Okay, great.
That one's for me.
Excellent. And let's talk about the tonneau, please, sir.
So this, I think, is the most classic looking of the entire set. It's the elongated Roman numerals just look, so elegant. This is one of the oldest designs as well, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
What year was this?
So Tom, good question. I think the tonneau is from 1906. Which means it's a watch that actually precedes the Tongxin Tre by a considerable amount of time. And it's already got this beautiful sort of shaped curve form that follows the contour of the wrist. Absolutely stunning, and it's one of these shapes that is both simultaneously feminine and masculine to me, which is why I find it so beautiful and so elegant.
So I think it probably also predates the production of the Santos Dumont then.
Yes.
Right, because I believe the first one was made in 1904.
But they didn't put it into serial production until 1911.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then finally we have the Tongxin Tre.
Yeah. This is a very wearable shape, but yet very artistic. And it's what I love about this is, at first glance, you don't realize it, but this is actually Cartier's interpretation of an oversized watch.
Oh yeah, big time.
But it does not look like it, right? It's
Not
still
at all.
a very classical, a very elegant dress piece. But yeah, this is so. A friend of mine described Cartier as having a very different approach to the confidence of masculinity.
Yes.
Without having to shout about it, without having to have it being spotted a mile away.
Right.
And I think this is really the embodiment of that statement.
That's such a beautiful watch, and one of the very first sort of shaped watches as well, right? I think it was that, and then I think as we were talking about the Benoit, which was also shaped as
Yeah.
well, and it conformed to the wrist, and it was really interesting that Louis Cartier was already making watches with this in mind.
Yeah.
And that's also really interesting is that these watches were, because one of the things that I really like and that Cyril talks about a lot about is singularity,
Yeah.
right? And how the best way for a brand to protect itself against recession, against pandemics, against any sort of like incident that may be erosive to its success, is to create things that are singular and durable, right? So
Yeah.
durability we've talked about, which is these things are all of these watches are roughly about 100 years old. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe the asymmetric's a little bit less, but still, it's like 90 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, but the thing about these watches also, it's like, and what Cartier does is unique to Cartier. Like no one else can do
Yep.
it except for Cartier. I always use this analogy that if Patek is the king of complications and Rolex is the king of sport, then Cartier has to be the king of elegance. Right?
Yes.
And I think that that's what you see so beautifully here. And it's a completely different take on masculinity, as you were saying as well. It's for the guy that like wearing something on his wrist, like even this watch, which is my Crash, which I received recently. It is not a large watch. It is shaped in a, how shall I put it, a provocative way.
Yeah.
It is a watch that probably could be worn by a woman as much by a man, and probably any of these watches as well.
Yeah.
But I also like what Cyril says, which is a Cartier watch is not a indication of gender, but a revelation of the strength of your character.
Wow,
right?
yeah.
And I think that's what you see here, and it certainly will be the case for your 18 very lucky members. Well, I guess 16 remaining people, as 2 of the watches have been spoken for.
Yeah.
Tom, I love this. When is this going to launch, or is it launching now?
It's going to be launched on the 24th March at 9 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and how do people who are within your community speak for one of these?
So the project was subscribed before it went to production,
Okay.
and the process. I mean, Cartier 2 years ago and now, I think they're in a very different place.
Oh my God!
Right.
Huge.
So 2 years
Yes.
ago, you won't believe this, but
Yeah.
I had problems getting people to subscribe to the cloche.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the last.
And now it's like the hottest one.
Yeah, yeah. So everyone was going for the Santos Dumont because that's the most iconic.
Yes.
Most iconic Cartier piece, right?
Yes.
And then some of the new subscribers to SWC projects, they were going for the Tech Louis Cartier
Right.
because that was the lowest price point. That was a piece at the lowest price.
What is it? What is that price?
I think like 20s.
Okay.
The platinum probably in the 30s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there was these 2 shapes were hotly contested.
Right.
But the asymmetric and the cloche were. It took a while.
How interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's
But
also.
today that's going to be completely different.
But I think that's the wonderful thing about what we're seeing. About watch collecting now.
Yeah.
Like thanks to things like social media where this will be posted, people are able to access information very rapidly.
Yeah.
They're able to form their own thoughts and ideas in their very sort of individual way. And I think that what has happened is that you have a global consensus amongst watch collectors that Cartier is awesome.
Yeah, I
right?
think so, yeah.
And you're very right. Like 2 years ago, it was like on the rise. I think I remember 2 years ago I wrote the story about like the next big thing. It's
Yeah.
going to be Cartier. Like start buying Cartier
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
But now, like I think we are deeply in the throes of a love affair with Cartier.
I do agree.
And I think it will be a permanent one because again, these are all iconic and they endure forever. You know. And I think again, the reason why it took a little bit of time to regather momentum was that you had to get Cyril Vigneron to come back and make Cartier great at what it fundamentally is great about, which
Yeah.
is elegance and style.
Yeah.
And to this day now, he says, technicality is great, but only if it serves elegance and style or beauty, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we see here.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure. Congratulations to the 16 remaining guys who are out there. You guys all are going to be walking around with an absolute masterpiece on your wrist. A pièce unique Cartier. I mean, that doesn't get better than that. So, and I know because I have one. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you.
Take care, guys. Peace.